I am finally back in studio after weeks of travelling, and to be honest, I've been holding on to an interaction from Alice Springs that I thought was important to share with you as soon as I had time to explain, because it demonstrates how the taxpayer-funded ABC seem to operate when they think that nobody will catch them out.
A disgusting display of white supremacy.
I was in the middle of filming a piece to camera when an Aboriginal woman approached and asked what I was reporting on.
It's too hot. About Alice Springs, do you want to tell us about what's going on here? Let's go.
Sorry, but I've got no teeth.
You got no teeth?
My teeth, so I won't go on thing, but it's wrong.
Do you want to face that way and he'll
Face each other directly. I'll get it from
What report are you trying to report on? Because there's two stories to this.
we want to hear both, so. Yeah, whatever story you have.
It's a racist town.
It's a racist town. It's a bold claim, one that I hadn't heard from anyone else besides for the infamous ABC report.
It's just a total white supremacist fest in there.
The locals I spoke to all week had no idea which white supremacists the ABC were talking about.
It's not a white supremacist thing. It's.
No.
You've lived here your whole life?
Yeah, but
You haven't met one?
never met one in my life.
So I was pretty keen to hear from this particular woman what racism she was talking about.
Do you want to get my number? We do it somewhere.
Like you want to go somewhere to do it?
Yeah. I would love to tell you of the story because I want to organise a rally to show how racist this territory government is.
That was like the second red flag. She suddenly changed the allegation from a racist town to a racist territory government. Big difference. Anyways, it seemed important. So an hour later, the team and I, we went to a local mall to meet her as per her request.
Can we film you?
Turn it off, please.
No camera, there's no camera.
It was a little bit weird. Remember, she asked to meet us at this location because, in her words, she would love to tell us mob the story of racism. So we just kept the cameras rolling nice and quietly.
Are you worried to say it?
No, I want to give you the story where it matches what you want.
She wants to give us the story that matches what we want. Okay, I reckon it was at that point it all clicked for me. I realised this woman was a bad faith activist, similar to the activists that the fly-in, fly-out ABC reporter found weeks earlier, perfectly suiting her fake news narrative. But when this woman realised I was simply out there to get to the truth, no matter where it led, she suddenly didn't want to waste our time.
There's lots to it. There's really lots to it.
All right.
But I don't want to waste your time.
No,
I
that's...
don't want to get on camera.
No, that's okay. That's all right. No stress.
We cut our losses, but that wasn't the end. A few hours later, I received a text that her friend was willing to do an on-camera interview. I don't know why, but we decided to go.
Yeah, one of the reasons I suppose we wanted to speak to you is we just don't feel like some of the government and agencies and I suppose the spokespeople of Alice Springs who are being most vocal are being very transparent about the issue here.
I wasn't expecting much, but to my surprise, her friend was willing to have a genuine conversation. She was polite and articulate, made some valid points, but unlike the ABC, I was ready to challenge any big claims of racism that didn't match what I was witnessing on the ground firsthand.
We should be doing more together. I don't want to separate it into white and black issue, but this town, there is a lot of racism in this town and these kids aren't silly. So, you know, they're born into it. So, yeah, they do run a bit of a muck and they smash windows and stuff like that.
When you talk about racism in town, because I haven't really seen it, and in fact we've interviewed, I was standing there, I think the first interview was a couple, the wife was Aboriginal, husband was white, and, you know, they were like shocked at the idea of it. Is there a racial tensions here, or is this No.
There's no racial tension whatsoever.
So what kind of racism are you talking about that the kids are experiencing here?
Well, racist policies. I mean, you know, if you want to go into a really simple one, I mean, when the pandemic was here, people shut down communities. The whole Aboriginal race in the territory was classed as vulnerable. So if you were one of the people who chose not to have your needle, your jab, no one around you could treat you, no one around you could work with you. That was based solely at Aboriginal people. We've got kids who we know are going in and out of jail and who are coming into care without the proper assessments being done on relatives. So that structural disadvantage, like there are already systemic racial laws, you know, that racial policies.
I remember watching that with the whole through the pandemic, and I thought that was really a racist policy in the name of protecting those communities, like because the white man knows better what's better for the black man. It just seemed so racist to me at the time. That I totally get. Moving on.
The inside stuff, okay. You know,
when you're saying the community, there's racism here, and the kids are feeling it. What is that?
Well, you know, Aboriginal kids. If you've got a kid walking down the street with a bike, the police will pull them up to check if it's stolen.
Again, her first point was very valid, and I guarantee that if the ABC had spoken with this particular activist, they would have cut out that legitimate complaint of actual racist policy. But the bike racism, I had questions, because firstly, it's not policy. In fact, racially profiling is illegal, even though the Alice case, there seems to be no argument on what race the perpetrating youth are from.
Systemically, it's actually illegal for them to be doing that.
Well, I mean, there's a racial discrimination protections to say that. I mean, to do
there's a systemism.
what they've done in the past, they've lifted that.
So when pushed, it turns out we agree. Her example of racism in Alice is not policy. In fact, what she's describing is illegal. And the truth is, I'm not convinced, because again, everyone I spoke to on the ground says that police were not doing enough to quash the out-of-control youth crime.
What are the police doing about all this?
They're doing all. They're doing.
Why do you still live here?
They're doing all.
Why don't you move away? Why do you like living here?
I got my wife here. She's Aboriginal.
How can police effectively if they're not allowed to do that, if that's classed as racist? I hope the question makes sense.
Yeah, it does. We don't want our kids being scared of the police. That's the first people we call.
If one thing when you know about me is my interactions with police are quite famous. I've sued the police. I've won. So I'm not standing here just defending police.
Yeah.
Trust me.
And I'm not standing here or sitting here rubbishing police as well.
But what I'm saying is there is obviously a crime issue, which you're saying is a minority of kids. But on the day-to-day basis, there are a lot of people, even you, at night, you're scared to drive. You know, you're hoping that no one throws a rock in your car. That's not okay.
For the biscuit and go for a drive.
That's not okay.
Somewhere.
How do you want police to work now, practically in this moment?
Well, I think that's the problem. It's not just the police, really. The police are the pointy end. That's what we want the police doing. We want everyone else before that doing their job. Yeah.
It is easy to blame police, and often lazy. When they deserve it, I'm the first to call them out. You all know that. But in this case, evidence of racist police policy or tactics just don't exist. If anything, they're under-enforcing the law out of fear of being labelled racist by those activists who claim they are anyways. If you think this report is as important as I do, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it far and wide, because unlike the ABC, I think it's important to hear all sides, as we've done and will continue to do so at therealvoice.com.au. And if you think our mission in Alice was worthwhile, please consider chipping in to cover the costs on that page, therealvoice.com.au. None of this is possible without your generosity.